Marwa from the University of Stellenbosch Business School. I'm responsible for teaching Econometrics and Development Finance. So today I'm going to talk with you about the issue of affordable housing crisis in Africa. And when we talk about affordable housing crisis in Africa, we mean that there is undersupply of these kind of houses which most of the majority can afford. We are talking about the houses in which most of the people living in sub-Saharan Africa, they can spend not more than 30% of their monthly income, either servicing their mortgage or trying to pay for their rental incomes. So that being said, we seem to have a relatively very good supply of the housing on the high-end market, but most of the housing available to this space, they are kind of too expensive for the people who are almost trying to make their ends meet. In the context of South Africa, for example, every year we have the demand of 1 million houses, and out of those 1 million houses, the developers could only supply about 25,000 housing units. What does this mean to the context? So this means the demand of the housing increases, and it push high the prices of the current price of the current stock of the houses, and also it escalates the rental for existing stocks. And once the demand outstrips the supply, then the price keep increasing. For those who are staying in South Africa, they know what I'm talking about. The situation is similar for other parts of Africa, and it's even more worse. And it's more worse for other parts of Africa because the level of property development and also financing in the housing market is very limited. There are some countries like Tanzania and some other countries in West Africa and also some part of Africa where the mortgage market was so limited, but now they're trying to catch up. So under that situation, when the financing is very limited and the supply is very limited, but we still see a lot of influx of rural-urban immigrations, and also the urbanization of the cities across these countries. Actually, it creates a significant demand for housing, and the housing supply is quite limited. So all this put together, actually, it ends up to create a very significant demand for the housing and a very limited supply, and hence the housing crisis. So that's when I'm talking about the affordable housing crisis. So that being said, now we know the quantum and the magnitude of the problem. We are trying to see what are different options which can be put in place to solve the problem. So the government alone, it doesn't seem to be able to solve the problem. And for those who are in South Africa, they know that the government tried, but actually it's almost giving up. And also the market alone can't solve the problem. So if it could solve the problem, we shouldn't have the problem in the first place. So maybe the solutions lies in the intersection between the market, the government, the community, and the social sector. So the problem is very complex, so it will need a multi-stakeholder approach in trying to solve it. More coming close to home, we are just saying we should try to come up with innovative social policies which support the supply of the affordable housing, but also we should talk about innovative finances which are carefully designed to take into account the income levels of the majority, but also the innovative technologies which will be able to supply the housing at affordable price given the income levels of different people from different communities. And through the combination of these, when we can try to mitigate this problem. So when I refer about innovative financing product, we mean these are different financing solutions which are really designed to take into account the actual situation of the people in the ground. So one of a very good example is housing microfinance. It comes with its own challenges, but if carefully designed, it seems to solve the problem. And also a very good example which has been going on for some time in Germany, it's where people are allowed to save towards a certain goal. So for this case, people are out to save a certain amount, whereby the government is going to match the amount of saved. Then those amount can be used towards paying for their for their mortgage or for their new purchase of the houses. So those are kind of possible innovative financing solutions which are viable into that space. But also when you talk about innovative technologies, we are trying to say coming up with a new technology which is more innovative, safe, and can construct a very nice house. Maybe not necessarily from your standard brick mortar technology. I know there should be some sentiments and resistance from people trying to adopt the new technologies because they're used with a standard mortar and a brick technology. But to some extent, this technology seems to be working, and actually, the people who are trying to use it in IRDP houses seem to be working quite fine. The only issue within IRDP houses, which are free houses given by the government to the poor, is that that kind of model is not sustainable. So what we're just saying, we can take the same technology and then try to upscale it, but make it more into more sustainable approach whereby people can contribute to a certain amount, then the government can use different innovation, whether it's a part of subsidy or it's a part of matching grant to make the housing affordable. Just to make my point clear, so when I talk about RDP technology, it's a kind of a special technology which is being used to supply the free housing government in South Africa for the people who are earning less than 3,000 rand a month. But this technology seems to be working for some time, but the challenge and the serious challenge behind it, these houses have been given for free, and some of the people who are taking the houses actually they sell them within the first 2 months, and sometimes they sell even before they move into their houses, then they go back into the poverty cycle. That by itself is not a problem, but also the government is always struggling with the finances. So the sustainability of the model in terms of the financing going forward is really a challenge. So that's why we say when you're trying to design a social policy, you should also take into account the sustainability of the social policy itself.